हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू Edu-GST। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं GSTR-9 9C के बारे में। एज यू आर अवेयर, 31st December is the last date for filing GSTR-9 9C. We have witnessed during the last 7 years, most of the litigations are based on GSTR-9 9C, and that is why understanding these forms thoroughly is very much important, is the need of time. In this series, we are going to discuss different aspects of GSTR-9 9C, and not only this series is not restricted only to the extent of understanding the forms. We are also going to discuss how your financial audit report and tax audit report is relevant while filing GSTR-9 9C. तो सीरीज के अंत तक बने रहे। चलो शुरू करते हैं सीरीज को। We'll start with the applicability of GSTR-9 9C. In which cases GSTR-9 9C is applicable? That is the first question. And before understanding the applicability, we need to understand what is GSTR-9 9C. See, different types of GST forms are there or returns are there which we require to file under the GST law. For example, GSTR-1, GSTR-3B, ITC-04, etc. So what is this GSTR-9 and 9C? GSTR-9 is the annual return. Now, like we are filing GSTR-1, which is monthly return, GSTR-3B. GSTR-9 is the annual return, where we are providing the annual summary of outward and inward supply made during the financial year. That is known as GSTR-9. So what is GSTR-9? GSTR-9 is a consolidated summary of outward and inward transaction made during the financial year. So it is the summary of outward and inward transaction made during the financial year. क्या क्या include होता है इसमें? First, outward supplies made. So whatever outward supply you have made during the financial year, that you required to report in GSTR-9. Inward supplies received and input tax credit availed. Inward supplies received and input tax credit availed, and tax payment made during the financial year. Apart from this, some other details are also required to be furnished in GSTR-9. What is GSTR-9C? GSTR-9C is self-certified reconciliation statement. Reconciliation of what? Reconciliation of figures reported in GSTR-9 with audited financial statement. So it is the reconciliation of GSTR-9 with the audited financial statement. What are the content of GSTR-9C? देखिए, first, reconciliation of gross and taxable turnover. The gross turnover includes taxable as well as non-taxable supply. So reconciliation of that taxable and non-taxable supply with the audited financial statement. This will be the first reporting in case of GSTR-9C. Reconciliation of tax payable and tax paid. So tax payable during the financial year vis-a-vis tax paid in form GSTR-3. Reconciliation of input tax credit. So how much is the input tax credit available as per your books of account and how much you have availed in GSTR-3. Reconciliation of that. Additional tax payable on account of non-reconciliation. So if there is any non-reconciliation, if your turnover is not matching with the turnover as per GSTR-9, and if because of that non-reconciliation, if any additional liability arises, that additional liability also you required to mention or you required to report in form GSTR-9C. Now coming to GSTR, applicability of GSTR-9 and 9C. In which cases GSTR-9 and 9C are applicable? Section 44 of the CGST Act provides for the provision of annual return. It says that every registered person is required to file annual return in form GSTR-9 and reconciliation statement in GSTR-9C except the following. So it is applicable in case of all registered person except the following. So there are 5 exceptions. First, input service distributor. Input service distributor, where registration is taken only for the distribution of credit to your other entities having same PAN number. In that case, there is no need to take the there is no need to file GSTR 9 as well as 9C. TDS deducted under section 50. Under section 51, deductor is required to deduct the TDS on the supplies received. In that case also, there is no need to file GSTR 9 and 9C. Casual taxable person. So you have timing taken the registration as a casual taxpayer. In that case also, GSTR 9 9C is not applicable. Non-resident taxable taxpayer. In that case also, GSTR 9 9C is not applicable. And last, central or state government department or local authorities audited by Comptroller and Audit General of India or other legally appointed audit. So government department where CAG audit is applicable, in that case also GSTR 9 9C is not applicable. So GSTR 9 9C is applicable in all other cases except these 5 cases: ISD, tax deducted under section 51, casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, and central and state government or local authorities which are subject to the CAG audit. Only in these 5 cases this audit is not applicable. This filing of GSTR 9 9C is not applicable. Now, one more important aspect which is required to be understood in this case is GSTR 9 9C is subject to some turnover limit. So if your turnover exceeds that limit, then only GSTR 9 9C is applicable. If your turnover is less than that criteria, in that case there is no need to file GSTR 9 9C. So what is that turnover limit? Let's understand. In case of GSTR 9, if your turnover is up to 2 crores, if your turnover is up to 2 crores, in that case, for financial year 2023-24, there is no need to file GSTR 9. And this exemption is given under section 44 because section 44 empowers commissioner to exempt any class of person from filing annual return on the recommendation of GST Council. So for financial year 23-24, GST Council has recommended to exempt from filing GSTR 9 9C those registered person whose turnover is up to 2 crores. So if your turnover is up to 2 crores, there is no need to file GSTR 9. Now what about 9C? Turnover limit for the purpose of filing GSTR 9C is embedded in Rule 80 Sub Rule 3. As per Rule 80 Sub Rule 3, if your turnover exceeds 5 crores, then only you are required to file GSTR. So if your turnover is more than 5 crores, then only there is applicability of GSTR. Otherwise, there is no need to file GSTR 9. So see, the applicability of GSTR 9 and 9C is based on the concept of aggregate turnover. So if your aggregate turnover exceeds prescribed limit, then only GSTR 9 9C is applicable. If your turnover is below the prescribed limit, in that case, applicability of GSTR 9 or 9C will not be. Now, in case of GSTR 9C, as I mentioned, it is applicable only when your turnover exceeds 5 crores. So if your turnover is below 5 crores, no problem. If your turnover exceeds 5 crores, then only there is applicability of GSTR. So there are two applicabilities. If your aggregate turnover exceeds 2 crores, GSTR 9 is applicable. If your aggregate turnover exceeds 5 crores, GSTR 9C is applicable. Right? So if your turnover is less than 2 crores, in that case, both GSTR 9 as well as 9C is not applicable. If your turnover exceeds 2 crores but less than 5 crores, in that case, you are required to just follow GSTR 9. There is no need to file GSTR 9C. And if your turnover exceeds 5 crores, then in that case, GSTR 9 as well as GSTR 9C, both are applicable. Apart from this, there are two more annual returns which are applicable, that is GSTR 9A and GSTR 9B. 9A is applicable in case of composition dealer. Registered person who have opted for the composition scheme, in that case they required to file annual return in form GSTR 9. But with introduction of GSTR 4, there is no need to file GSTR 9A. So GSTR 9A is not required to file even if it is annual return, which is removed from the GSTN portal after introduction of GSTR 4. GSTR 9B is the annual return in case of e-commerce operator, but that has not been yet notified by the government. So presently there are only two types of annual return. First is GSTR 9 and second is reconciliation statement, self-certified reconciliation statement, that is GSTR 9C. Now, as I mentioned, applicability is based on turnover. So say, and turnover means what? Aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover means pan-India turnover. So if your pan-India turnover is more than 2 crores, then only there is applicability of GSTR 9. And if your pan turnover exceeds 5 crores, in that case you are required to file 9C as well. So say I am having 3 registration. One is in Maharashtra where my turnover is say 2.5 crores. Second registration is in say Gujarat where my turnover is say 1.5 CR. And say there is third registration in Madhya Pradesh where I am having no turnover. In that case, whether GSTR 9 is applicable? Please understand, applicability of GSTR 9 is based on the concept of aggregate turnover. So you are required to add turnover of all the registration together to decide applicability of GSTR 9. So in this case, so total turnover is 2.5 crores plus 1.5 crores. So it is 4 crores, right? So in this case, you are required to file GSTR 9 in all 3 cases. Even if in Madhya Pradesh your turnover is nil, there is no turnover, still you are required to file nil GSTR. If suppose any taxpayer has cancelled his registration, but his turnover during the financial year was more than 2 crores, so even if he has cancelled the registration, still he required to file GSTR 9. Right? As I mentioned, turnover is the deciding factor. The concept aggregate turnover is defined under section 2 subsection 6 of the CGST. What is aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by the person on reverse charge basis, exempt supplies, export of goods or services or both, and interstate supplies of person having same PAN account number to be computed on all India basis. So this is aggregate turnover of same PAN across the India. So it will be calculated all India level. It includes aggregate value of all the taxable supplies, right? Value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by the person under reverse charge to be excluded. तो आपके एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में पूरे इंडिया का जितना भी टर्नओवर होगा आपका वो ऐड किया जाएगा एंड इट विल बी एंड द आरसीएम or the supplies on which you have paid tax under reverse charge mechanism, that will be excluded. Turnover is assessed on all India basis considering the combined turnover of all registered location. If turnover exceeds 2 crores in a year, filing of annual return becomes compulsory for all the location, including the mandatory filing of nil returns for GSTN where supply is not made throughout the year. Right? So aggregate turnover will be computed on all India basis. So wherever you are having registration in any state or union territory, turnover of all those states and union territories will be added in order to calculate the aggregate turnover under section 2 subsection 6. And if aggregate turnover exceeds 2 crores, in that case you are required to file GSTR 9. And if aggregate turnover exceeds 5 crores, in that case you are required to file the GSTR 9C. Now let's understand what are the consequences If I'm not filing GSTR-9, in that case, what are the consequences? The first consequences is department can issue you notice under section 46 read with rule 60. So department will issue you show cause notice in form GSTR-3A. After getting that notice, registered person is required to file GSTR-9 within a period of 15 days. Within a period of 15 days. So this will be the first consequence. Second, department can initiate proceedings under section 61, section 65, section 66, 73 and 74. Section 61 is scrutiny of return. Section 65 is audit by the department. Section 66 is special audit. Section 73 is demand, where in case of non-fraud cases. Section 74 is applicable when demand is on account of fraud, suppression of fact or misstatement. So department can initiate proceedings under this section. That will be the second consequence. Third, late fees. So during the period you fail to file the GSTR-9, late fee is payable under section 47. Remember, under section 47, late fee is payable at rupees 100 per day. Rupees 100 per day for delay shall be payable subject to maximum 0.25% of the term. So 100 rupees per day is the late fees, subject to maximum fees of 0.25% of turnover. This is CGST only. Yeah? So 100 rupees in CGST, 100 rupees in SGST. However, wide notification 7/2023, last year only, dated 31st March 2023, government has revised this late fees. In certain cases, government has reduced this late fees. कौन सी cases है? If your turnover is up to 5 crores, अगर आपका turnover 5 crore तक है, तो in that case, instead of 100 rupees per day, you just required to pay 25 rupees per day as the late fee. So in this case, आपको सिर्फ 25 रुपए का per day late fee paid करना है, subject to maximum late fee of 0.02% of the turnover. Now this is CGST. So 25 rupees in CGST, 25 rupees in SGST, subject to maximum 0.02% of your turnover. If your turnover is in between 5 crores to 20 crores, in that case, you required to pay late fee of rupees 50 per day, subject to again maximum 0.02% of the turnover. So if your turnover is up to 5 crores, आपको 25 रुपए per day देना है, 25 rupees in CGST, 25 rupees in SGST. If your turnover is up to 5 crores, more than 5 crores, but less than 20 crores, so in that case, it will be 50 rupees per day, subject to maximum again 0.02. Now, if your turnover is more than 20 crores, in that case, this concessional late fee structure is not applicable. If your turnover is more than 20 crores, in that case, regular late fees of rupees 100 per day in CGST and SGST each will be applicable, subject to again maximum of 0.25% of your turnover. Apart from this, department can penalize you by way of general penalty of rupees 25,000 each in CGST and SGST. Remember, late fees is for filing of GSTR-9, delayed filing of GSTR-9. But in case of GSTR-9C, there is no late fee. So in that case, department is entitled to invoke this general penalty. And that is why filing of this GSTR-9 9C in time is very much essential. I hope you understand this applicability concept. In next session, we are going to see the table-wise analysis of GSTR-9. Thank you very much.